that it's going out there. So I will start the customary tagging of the show. So good evening. It is Friday, November 17th. It's not quite the top of the hour, but we're getting there. Kind of like my iced coffee. It's going to get us there. And, let us know if you can hear us. And some of you may not be expecting to hear us because it's not actually 9 o'clock, but like the Prince song says, when doves cry.
When doves cry. Oh, here we go.
Purple rain, purple rain. But it's blue hair, not purple. Ooh. Matt in the chat room says he hears us. And if you are so bold as to check out YouTube, you can see me in all my finery tonight. I've got a layover in the heartland here, and just waiting until my standby flight lets me board. But
So I did hear us. Oh, and Chubb's Gone Wild Matt says he hears us. So
ooh. So only a momentito longer, and we can get going here. It's almost the crooning hour. Let's see. I gotta move some things over so I can see things.
wait a minute. What's the crooning hour?
Oh, when I introduce things.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like James. No, not like Dean Martin crooning.
Oh, well, I mean, I am Blue Eyes, but that's
Okay.
isn't that Frank Sinatra?
Yeah, that's right.
So, drum roll. Brrr, it's almost 9 o'clock. Do you feel the suspense? Ooh.
Mostly.
That's not the laxative that they dropped in your coffee. Is it?
Oh, maybe that's what it is.
Oh my. There's a young someone in the background there. Okay. So, good evening and welcome to the beautiful historical Marionette Theater. Tonight we are going to be traveling cross country for the holidays to get home for that family feast. But something goes awry along the way. Please take your seats. The show is about to begin. Well, hey there, hi there, and hello there. Welcome to Spud's Flats, and it is the beginning of the holiday season, folks. Way there, Toppy.
Hi.
Did you finish getting those pumpkins the kiddos smashed all over the place all cleaned up?
Yeah, a little bit. But I want to say this year's one of my favorite things that I learned on the interwebs this year, and you can save this idea for next Halloween, folks. But you carve your pumpkin, and then you put your carved pumpkin in like a chicken pen, and they peck all around the insides of where you carved, and then you just put a candle in like usual, and what you get is like a super spooky jack-o'-lantern. The other side of this is you spread peanut butter on the sides of everything you carved out, and then squirrels come and chomp on the edge, and that also gives you a super spooky pumpkin. Anyways, save that idea for next year, folks. There you go.
I mean, something like that is much more kind to animals than throwing out your McDonald's leftovers.
I guess so.
Oh,
But we're not talking about Thanksgiving. I'm sorry, we're not talking about Halloween. We're talking about Thanksgiving.
Yeah, so as we are one to enjoy the underdog, this is the holiday that folks don't talk about as much because we're the only crazy folks who really celebrate. Now, our our neighbors to the north there, they have their own holiday about a month before. But this is where us poor saps decide that it's a good idea to spend time with family because you got to be thankful for what you have. And, you know,
Yes, indeed.
depending on what you've been through, it might be an enjoyable experience. So,
Yeah,
uh,
that's true.
now, Toppy, the holidays and certainly Thanksgiving are typically full of traditions and, grandma brings this or, Aunt Hildy brings that. Is there a particular dish or something that you look forward to at Thanksgiving or that you usually make yourself? I know things are a little bit different this year, but let's pretend that you've got this beautiful manor and you're having the whole crew of Pickle Hollow over. What would you be putting on the table?
Oh, all the traditionals. Um, uh, Except nowhere in sight would be that green bean casserole. No, no, nowhere in sight. But you'd absolutely have the squash, the mashed potatoes, the turkey, and you'd have a salad, and you'd have a relish tray, and and stuff like that, and then many pies, many different kinds of pies at the end of the meal, and I have many years of very fond memories of just like oodles of family coming over because no one ever left Pickle Hollow. They were born there and they stayed there. So when we did family for Thanksgiving, boy, there were a lot of people that came over. And, it's very fond memories of all of that happening. And blessings to my mother who single handedly just made it happen along with my grandmother. And they just did it. And they did it for years. So, yeah, many fun. But today, many new things happening. And the family's gotten older and we've all drifted apart. So it's not the same. And so I've got my memories.
I like to do something to create new memories a lot of times because I spent a decade living away from family. And so every once in a while, I will make something new to bring to the family gathering. And it started a few years ago, and I actually caught on to this recipe from a former podcaster, Teaching Thomas. And he grew up in the great state of Maine, and he shared this recipe once that I adore. It is a pie that's made with pear, and that fruit that kind of looks like an oblong apple, but
Sure,
it's a pear.
sure.
But in this pie, it's not only pear, but there's maple syrup, which
Oh,
that itself is heaven on earth here in the Northeast when it gets this time of year, and ginger, crystallized ginger, just ground up with some of the maple syrup, and it has a crumb topping. It's a maple ginger pear pie. So I made that a few years ago, and I'm going to be making it for my friends at the Brand Barn at work because we're having our potluck on Monday.
nice. Listen, I'll tell you what. I'd love. Wait a minute. Matt's throwing showing a face that states maybe he wouldn't like that, but I got to tell you, DJ, to me, that pie really sounded good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind having that. Also, apparently, Matt does not care for the squash no, the sweet potato and marshmallow that so many families have, including mine. In fact, I'd have to say of everything, that may have been my mother's absolute favorite was the sweet potato and marshmallow.
I found that sweet potato tastes a little bit better when it's made with French fries, and it's sprinkled with chili powder.
See, I'll take. I love the squash and I love the sweet
Oh,
potato,
yes.
and so I don't have any problem with either of those. Well, we should.
I was talking about potlucks, and so
Yeah.
speaking of potluck, oh, wait, she's been cleared of those charges, right?
What what are you talking about, DJ?
I don't know.
Listen,
Hmm.
listen. Before we get going, I just want everyone to know that at the Friday after Thanksgiving in Spud's Flat here at the Marionette Theater, we're having a Black Friday sale on all the concessions.
Hmm.
Everything has to go to make way for next year's inventory. And, well, this year's inventory has a lot of things from like 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. But, anyways, it's dirt cheap. You're going to come in, get a lot of candy, good and plenty. Chew, chew. Yeah, anyways, we got lots of stuff like that. And it's, so old. But, listen, you can't go wrong at these prices. Remember, Black Friday at the Marionette Theater in Spuds Flats. Be here or be square.
Okay. Well, you heard it from our senior showgirl. Start forming the line now because it's kind of be like those doorbusters.
Right, right.
Hmm.
And I don't want any violence at the door. No trampling of anyone, or, anyways, I'll hurt you. Okay,
No,
I'm
but
ready. I'm ready to introduce the show.
all right, there. Get downstairs before your
Okay,
ex-boyfriend sneaks in.
I will, I will.
There she goes.
Neil is a Chicago ad executive on a business trip to New York. When the clock strikes 5, he's in a mad dash. It's a countdown to Wheels Up. He's in a hurry to make it home for Thanksgiving. But every which way he turns, he keeps running into the same bumbling salesman who's also having trouble getting home. Or is he? Grab your boarding pass and your favorite Lucky Charm. You're gonna need it. It's time for Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with Steve Martin and John Candy. Take it away, fellas.
What do you get when you take a dash of the silver screen? A pinch of golden oldies, and a smidgen of screaming. It's time for Matinee Minutia with your hosts DJ and Tommy.
Ooh, I can almost smell the turkey in the oven, Toppy.
Sure can. Well, DJ, our movie tonight came out in 1987. Thank you. And it would be nifty if you could tell us what was going on in the world in that year.
Alrighty, let me just make sure that everything's set to go here, and it is. All right. So, the U.S. in 1987. American Motors Corporation. The folks that brought us the funny little cars like the Gremlin and the Hornet. By the way, they also brought us the Jeep brand that was later bought by Chrysler. Well, something happened to them in 87. Anyways, Jim Baker resigned from the PTL. Yay! And during a visit to Berlin, Ronnie Reagan challenged old Baldy to tear down this wall. So, also in 87, televangelist Pat Robertson, dead, announces his candidacy for Republican presidential nomination. I almost said comedy. The first National Coming Out Day is celebrated because, the wall was coming down. And a squirrel, speaking of our discussion in the chat room, a squirrel closed down the stock exchange when it burrowed through a telephone line.
Oopsie doodle. Well, we had some celebrity births way back then in 1987, which, if you really think about it, is a long time ago. But let's not think about that. So, celebrity births. Keisha. Yeah, the female pop artist with 5 albums. Miley Cyrus and Miranda Cosgrove. Blake Lively, that's an actress from CW's Gossip Girl. Yeah, and she's the wife of Ryan Reynolds, don't you know? Hilary Duff. Why, she's an actress and former teen Disney star. Lizzie McGuire. Singer. She's released 5 studio albums. Most recently, a published author and fashion designer, because one must branch out. Well, we've also have celebrating a Voice Day in 97. We've got that there. We've Zac Efron. He's another former Disney actor. God damn them! They're all over the place. High School Musical, don't you know? Now he's got that chiseled physique. Woo, 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 woo. And then there's Kevin Jonas, old singer and the oldest member of the Jonas Brothers. We got your Aaron Carter, singer. It's another boy, the Backstreet Boys, brother of Nick. I guess he came out as bisexual in 2017, and now he's I don't know what he is. Released 5 albums. Yeah. Oh,
Now you know.
that's a bummer right there. Passed away at the age of 34 after drowning in his bathtub. Oh dear. Anyway, well, sorry to go. Oh, well, there's a photo that DJ pasted in the chat room. See, I didn't know what he looked like, but that right there is a fine young man. Oh, he is dead, man. I'm sorry. DJ, this is a movie we're talking about. It came out in the theaters.
Yeah.
So tell us what it was competing against.
All right. So way back then in 87, of course, as we have a fondness for the soft spot in, well, my head maybe, but the middle of the box office, the movie tonight, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, well, it wasn't the top performer, no surprise. It was actually number 29, but it brought in 35 million, which is more than what my baby pictures would bring in. But the top of the box office in 1987 included the number 1 slot, which had Eddie Murphy and Judge Reinhold, bringing in 153 million. It was a sequel, folks. It was Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Oh, my God.
Yes, and in the number 2 spot is a film with Forrest Whitaker. You know, the guy that was Tom Hanks' best friend in Forrest Gump. Yeah. And also Charlie Sheen, perhaps between bouts of rehab. And that brought in 136 million. I'm talking about Platoon, folks. Wasn't that set in Vietnam, I believe?
Oh, yeah, it was. And Jeepers, there were a hell of a lot of other stars in that, if I recall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the number 3 film that year was a film with Michael Douglas and Glenn Close. It was, it was a breakup movie, and there was some dirty deeds done in that movie. And I'm not talking about Between the Sheets, folks. They got revenge on each other.
The rabbit!
Yes.
The rabbit.
And that brought in 156 million that year.
Oh, God. Yeah, we're talking about Fatal Attraction.
So, to put things into perspective, around the middle of the box office there, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, as I said, it's number 29. Now, the film that did one better was a film with Kevin Costner and Gene Hackman. This is No Way Out, and it was about a military officer who, he had an illicit affair and tried to cover it up.
I remember that one.
Yeah. And Kevin Costner was looking like a good man in a uniform.
Yes, indeed.
And then the film that was just one below Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was a film with the future, sadly, governor of California and the head honcho of the president's physical fitness test,
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Running Man.
And they already freaking remade it. Can you believe that?
Did you? Well, I mean, after his nasty breakup with that affair he had with the maid, they had to have him running again.
I
Um,
guess.
but it brought
I
in
think the
38.4 million was the Running Man. Anyway,
okay, there you go. Not bad. I think the cleverest thing about the Running Man was the guy that did that game show was in it. He hosted a game show. What's his face? He was in Hogan's Heroes. Anyways, I thought it was clever. All right. DJ, do we got a
a trailer?
trailer?
We
Yeah, why don't we play
do.
the friggin' trailer?
All right. So, if you were the movie-going sort back in '87, if you were going to spend your money to see something on the silver screen, you might have seen this in coming attractions. It's the trailer for tonight's film.
During holiday travel, some people get delirious, some get delayed, and some get Del Griffin.
American Light and Fixture, Director of Sales, Shower Curtain Ring Division.
Neil Page got all three.
I was on my way home to spend a nice holiday with my family. Instead, I'm in a motel bed with a stranger.
So instead of Thanksgiving with his family, he's spending 3 days with the turkey.
Two happy clams just whistling down the road.
Flintstones, meet the Flintstones, and a modern family.
Paramount Pictures presents Steve Martin,
Ever been to Hawaii?
Yeah.
You see Don Ho while you were there?
See the second show, that's the best one.
Is that right?
Yeah.
John Candy,
Why are you holding my hand? Where's your other hand? Between two pillows. Those aren't pillows.
in a new film by John Hughes. Planes, trains, and automobiles.
See that Bears game last week? Yeah, hell of a game, hell of a game.
Ooh, 2 pillows, eh?
Yeah. All right. Well, do we have time to talk about the director? Yeah, we got time.
Mm-hmm.
Let me introduce the director to you. It's Richard. Matt in the chat room. It's not Peter Dawson. That's it. Richard Dawson. He's the guy that kissed everyone and spread SARS around the world on this game show. Anyways, the director of tonight's movie, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, was none other than John Hughes. He was born in 1950. He passed away in 2009. He was an American filmmaker. He was born in Lansing, Michigan. And Hughes himself described himself as a kind of a quiet little kid. He attended Grove Middle School, later on going to Glenbrook North High School. And that's where he got an inspiration for the films that that high school experience gave him the inspiration for the films that eventually made his reputation. In high school, he met Nancy Ludwig, a cheerleader, and his future wife. And at the time, as a teenager, Hughes wasn't exactly having the greatest upbringing ever, with maybe not the greatest parents of all time. And so what did he turn to escape? Well, he went to the movies. So he went to the University of Arizona and he dropped out. And that's when Hughes began selling jokes. I love the progression of this guy's career. Hughes began selling jokes to well-established performers like Rodney Dangerfield and Joan Rivers. And he sold them. He made some money doing that. And they bought his jokes. And then Hughes used his history of selling jokes to get an entry-level job at Needham, Harper and Steers as an advertising copywriter in Chicago. Folks, this is 1970. And after that, in 1974, he moved over to Leo Burnett Worldwide to do some more copywriting. Now, folks, I remember this ad campaign, but John Hughes apparently was responsible for creating what became the famous Edge credit card shaving test campaign. Edge being the shaving cream Edge. And I remember it. I don't know the gist of it, but they scraped a credit card along with the skin, or I don't know what that proved, but anyways, John Hughes came up with it, and it took off. Also, he had a Virginia Slims account that worked out very well, and because of that, that was for Philip Morris. He would often travel to New York City. Well, guess what he did there in his off time? Well, John Hughes visited the offices of National Lampoon magazine because he's a funny guy, and he thought, well, jokes. I've sold jokes, and he soon became a regular contributor to National Lampoon magazines. As a matter of fact, one of Hughes's first stories, inspired by his family trips as a child, was called Vacation 58, later to become the basis for the film National Lampoon's Vacation. Moving along, his first credited screenplay, National Lampoon's Class Reunion. Now, that movie was a flop, but whatever. His next screenplay was National Lampoon's Vacation, and that became a major hit in 1983. This, along with the success of another Hughes script that very same year, Mr. Mom, earned him a three-film picture deal with Universal Pictures. Hughes' directorial debut was 16 Candles in 1984, and that movie won him a lot of praise. And it was in no small part due to its more honest depiction of navigating adolescence and the social dynamics of high school life. And it was a stark contrast to the goofier, bawdier, dopier, Porky's-inspired comedies that were being made at the time. It was the first in a string of efforts about teenage life that Hughes would do, set in or around high school. And these movies included The Breakfast Club in 85, Weird Science, also in 85, Ferris Bueller's Day Off in 86, all of which he wrote and directed, and Pretty in Pink, also in 86, and Some Kind of Wonderful in 87, which he wrote and produced. So by 1987, we see Hughes branching out by writing, directing, and producing hit comedies. One of them being Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, our movie tonight. He later did Uncle Buck and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, both proving extremely popular. His final film as a director was 1991's Curly Sue. I remember that. By that time, in 91, his John Hughes Entertainment production company had signed various deals with 20th Century Fox and Warner Brothers. He was on the move. Hughes' greatest commercial success came with what movie do you think? Well, he was the guy behind Home Alone.
Check it out on YouTube. I'm recreating the scene.
There you go. That was it. Home Alone from 1990, a film he wrote and produced. That was about a child accidentally left behind when his family goes away for Christmas. But get this, Hughes completed the first draft of Home Alone in just 9 days. It was the top grossing film of 1990 and remains the most successful live-action family comedy of all time. Hughes followed it up with the sequels Home Alone 2, Lost in New York in 92, and Home Alone 3 in 97. And as we said, he sadly passed away in 2009. That, gentlemen and ladies, is John Hughes.
Now, the question you have to ask, was the young boy left home alone by accident, or was it an accident?
I don't know.
And I want to say that Curly Sue movie that he did, I think the young actress who played the child, the daughter in that, I think, if I'm wrong, correct me in the chat room, Matt, I think she scored an ad campaign with Pepsi as their new sort of spokesperson for a while.
Japers, if that's true, I have no memory. No memory.
Because, you fell asleep watching MTV in those days, right?
I want to say Curly Sue had Macaulay Culkin in it, but I can't remember. I can't remember.
Well, the lead actor in that role was Jim Belushi, John's brother.
Okay, all right.
So, we are at about the halfway mark in the show. So, in honor of one of our leading men, we're going to be performing the Candy Man, because John Candy, don't you know? So, we're going...
Candy Man! Hey, baby.
So, for your listening enjoyment, we have an interview that's done by a local St. Louis station, and this was conducted during a hockey match that John Hughes and John Candy just happened to be in town to watch because they were filming some of the scenes for Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. So you'll hear John Hughes talk about his favorite team and John Candy's affinity for hockey. Here we go.
Oh, all right.
Okay, we're back at the arena, the Bud Sports Break. After two spirited periods of hockey, the St. Louis Blues over the North Stars 3-1. And joining us in a special edition of the Bud Sports Break, in town some show business stuff, we have actor, comedian, Canadian, and big hockey fan John Candy, and also the movie director John Hughes. Both of these gentlemen are in town directing a film. Tell us something about the film you're shooting in St. Louis.
It's called Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. It stars John and Steve Martin, who play... two salesmen who get stuck on the road over the Thanksgiving holiday, whose mission it is to get to Chicago, New York to Chicago,
easy route,
via Wichita, St. Louis, and on into Chicago.
That we have to look forward to. John, I have to ask you, being a big hockey fan, you have yet to make your first hockey film. I know you were just barely beaten out by Rob Lowe for the lead in Youngblood, and that hurt you.
I was a little upset about that, too. It went right down to the finals between me and he, and... I had a big pimple on my face the day of the final audition, and that kind of killed it for me. They thought it was permanent, and I was trying to tell them you could cover it with makeup, but I guess, I don't know, I've been in training for that one for about 6 months, too, and, that's on to the next one, I say.
But you do have a hockey film.
But look what happened to that picture, so,
I think you could have saved it.
I think so. I'd like to think so. But, the rest is history, and we're on to the next picture now.
Any chance of a hockey film in the offing for you anytime in the future, though?
Well, we did one on SCTV called Power Play, where I played Billy Stamhovalichki for the Toronto Bay Leafs. And we had fun with that one. Rick Moranis and myself, we wrote that. So we grew up on hockey up in Toronto, so that was always our dream. And the great thing about it, we got free skates. We went to CCM and got free skates. We made the producers pay for it.
I know you're a big hockey fan, John, and also Mr. Hughes, that you have been here a couple of times this week. Now, do you have any particular affiliation in this game? Who are you rooting for?
Well, tonight, absolutely St. Louis. Toronto's... John is with Detroit. He's a Detroit fan, so I guess you're booing him tonight here in St. Louis. But
apologize. But
if you notice, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, a film John wrote and directed, there was a Detroit sweater in there with Gordie Howe's number.
Well, that's dangerous around here. Detroit's not real popular. You stole the coach, Jacques Demers. I mean, it's rough. It's a sore spot here in St. Louis.
Well,
There'll be a St. Louis sweater in this movie, won't
my
there?
second Blues game this week, and I haven't been to any Detroit games in 30 years, so I guess I'm a Blues fan now. So.
Okay. Have you enjoyed your stay in St. Louis, John?
I have. It's been great. Everybody's been real nice to us here. We've been, of course, looking for snow. The movie deals with a snowstorm, and the tulips and daffodils here are gorgeous. They're in bloom, and all the buds are on the trees, so...
I need some more for the budget to manufacture some snow if you can.
We're here to empty the Zamboni at the end of the game, and anybody who's got any extra snow at home, please send it to us at the production office at the Hilton Hotel. That's the Hilton Hotel by the airport. Any old snow, we could use it, so please, if you've got any, send it out. Any, throw in the trunk.
Okay, quickly, I'm going to eat you a prediction first for your movie and then for the rest of the game.
Well, the Blues are going to win it, and picture's going to be number 1 at Christmas, right?
Yeah. Well, I got to go along with that. I'm hoping that St. Louis, I know St. Louis will win tonight. Minnesota, 2 shots on goal?
Yeah.
3 shots, actually, 1 went in.
Heck of a game.
Heck of a game, yeah. But I'm hoping St. Louis wins tonight, and I know the movie's going to do well. It's just got Steve Martin's great, and working with John is wonderful. So
and the name of the movie again?
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Hey, we'll be looking for it for Christmas.
Next
Thank you.
Thanksgiving, right.
Thank you so much. Thanksgiving, even better. Well, thank you so much for being our guest on the Bud Sports Break.
Thank you, St. Louis, for taking care of us here.
Okay, John Hughes and John Candy, thanks so much for being with us. We'll be back with more right after this.
Alrighty, so that was pretty much just an interview with John Candy, because John Hughes, he really couldn't get in a word edgewise there.
I guess not. DJ, tell us about Steve Martin. He was the big star of tonight's show.
Yes, sir. So as we all know, of course, there takes a boatload of talent to make a production like a movie. And, of course, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, it was on the silver screen in '87. And our leading man in tonight's film is Mr. Steve Martin. The Jerk, the Man with Two Brains, so many of those iconic 80s comedy films. And in this film, he played Neil Page. Now, Steve Martin was born in Waco, which is a town south of Fort Worth in Texas. He was raised in Inglewood and Garden Grove in California. Now, in 1960, he got a job at the magic shop of Disney's Fantasyland. And
what a nerd.
Yes. And while there, he learned magic, juggling, and creating balloon animals. I bet maybe he ran into Auntie Vera at some point. At Santa Ana College, he took classes in drama and English poetry. He also took part in comedies and other productions at the Birdcage Theater. Not the one that was a play and, later a movie. And he joined a comedy troupe at Knott's Berry Farm. That's it's a popular attraction out there in the West, and it's actually an amusement park along with a brand that actually produces berry goods and treats.
Well, and the jelly. Well, Knott's Berry jelly.
Yes, and Steve Martin attended California State University as a philosophy major, but in '67, he transferred to UCLA as a theater major. So, maybe someone told him something's coming down the pike. Get out.
Yeah.
Get there into acting. So, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. It wasn't Steve Martin's first time at the rodeo. Get it? Texas joke. And no, it was actually his 6th film. His film just before this was Three Amigos with Chevy Chase, and his first, I believe, collaboration with Martin Short. His film after this was a film in '91, so a few years later, and it had Sarah Jessica Parker and Mary Lou Henner. That was L.A. Story. Pause for a sip of iced coffee. His writing career began on the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour in '67. My sister had a copy of that on vinyl. Toppy, did you ever listen to the Smothers Brothers?
Well, Uh, uh, I had to go to bed too early at that time to ever see them. But I did see them when they came back in the early 80s, I think.
I just remember the comedy routine because there was a joke about the playground and how poor their school was, and that they didn't have swings. They just sat in the rope or sat in the dirt and pulled on the ropes. Anyways, this won Steve Martin an Emmy Award for his work on the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour. And between 67 and 73, so, 6 years there, he also wrote for many other shows, including the Glenn Campbell Good Time Hour. Sounds like
now that I was watching.
And then, of course, in 71, he worked on the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour.
And I was watching that.
He also appeared on talk shows and comedy shows in the late 60s and early 70s. And in 72, he first appeared on The Tonight Show, starring Johnny Carson, of course. And that was in 62 he first appeared on The Carson Show.
That sounds too early, DJ. I'd go with your original date of 72.
Probably.
62 would have been no. That can't possibly be true. It was 72.
I got 62 in there somewhere. We'll figure it out later. Doing stand-up several times each year, and even guest hosting a few years later.
Now, those early times, folks, you would have seen him in his familiar white suit, and he would always have his banjo. That was a big part of his act. And that arrow through the head was a comedy gag that was in his arsenal at the time. So he was. And by the way, today he is a very respected banjo player. I mean, he is maybe one of the best around. At any rate, yeah, way back then, his act was playing the banjo and having an arrow through his head.
So in 76, he served for the first time as guest host on Saturday Night Live. And by 2016, he had guest hosted 15 times.
Yeah, Saturday Night Live did a lot to advance his career.
And, he's right up there with Alec Baldwin for his amount of times he hosted Saturday Night Live. And he also appeared 12 other times on Saturday Night Live outside of the hosting.
Yeah.
So during the 90s, Martin continued to play more dramatic roles. In 91, he was in Grand Canyon, playing a traumatized movie producer. And in 92, he was in Leap of Faith, playing a fake faith healer, so sort of a televangelist. Now here is a favorite. 1994's A Simple Twist of Fate, which I believe was a modern adaptation of the story of Silas Marner, and I think he was a widow who adopted an orphan child. That was a really good film for him. Playing it explains it plays a man that was betrayed and adopted a baby. Okay, so in 97, he starred in David Mamet's thriller. Mamet. Thriller, The Spanish Prisoner. And, we have some distraction in the chat room here. You'll have to let me know who that is, Matt.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, I'm not sure who it is, but likely look.
So, and other more comedic roles include, here's another favorite, Toppy. In 92, can you imagine this? Steve Martin. Now, you would have thought, being a staple actor of the iconic 80s comedy films, that these two would have been collaborating more often, but no. It wasn't until 92 that Steve Martin was in a movie with Goldie Hawn called House Sitter. And this film is right up there on the top of my list because, oh my goodness, this story is so fun. Okay, the short version of it is that Goldie Hawn's character is passing through town, maybe getting over a bad breakup, and she's a con artist. She finds this beautiful house that's being built, and she decides to become a squatter because it looks to be abandoned. Well, she eventually chances upon Steve Martin's character, who is a bachelor about to be wed, and things fall apart in that relationship, and it's just hysterical because everyone in town assumes that Goldie Hawn is Steve Martin's betrothed, and she comes up with all of these backstories about how they met and how they know each other. And anyways, it's totally worth watching. House Sitter from '92. Let's catch up. In The Out of Towners in '99, he was with Goldie Hawn again. And then in '94, he did another film. It's one of my favorites. It's actually a holiday-themed film because he works for a counseling hotline. And it's Nora Ephron's, so it was based on a book, Mixed Nuts. And I do believe that this may have been one of Madeline Kahn's last film roles. In '99, Steve Martin was in Bowfinger with Eddie Murphy. It was written by himself and co-starred Eddie Murphy. After Bowfinger, he starred in Bringing Down the House, which had Queen Latifah. And in '03, he did a remake of the classic film Cheaper by the Dozen, which I do believe the original had Lucille Ball. And both earned more than $130 million. He wrote and starred in a film in 2005 called Shop Girl and appeared in the sequel of Cheaper by the Dozen. And then afterwards, he appeared in the 2006 The Pink Panther, which of course was a modern remake of the 80s films, and Pink Panther 2 in 2009, which he co-wrote as Inspector Clouseau. Now, in 2007, Steve Martin remarried. He had a messy breakup, actually, and we'll talk about that in a little bit here. And he has a daughter from this marriage. More recently, Martin continues to act and appears in Only Murders in the Building, which is a Hulu series, started in 2021, so it's on its second season. And he's in that with Steve Martin and former Justin Bieber heartthrob Selena Gomez. And to date, Steve Martin has 69 acting credits and recently celebrated his 78th birthday this past August.
Excellent. Let's talk about John Candy. In Planes, Trains, he played Del Griffith. Born in 1950, passed away in '94. Candy was a Canadian actor and comedian, best known for his work in Hollywood films. Candy grew up in Newmarket, Ontario. He attended Neil McNeil. Boy, that sounds like a character in the Smellcast. Hi, I'm Neil McNeil. He attended Neil McNeil Catholic High School, where he was the treasurer of the student council. And, get this, kids, played offensive tackle on the school's football team, and meanwhile participated in their drama club. So, yeah, long before he ever thought about acting, Candy was thinking of becoming a professional football player. Can you believe that? But, as sometimes happens in that sport, which is a highly kinetic, confrontational sport where people bang into each other, he got a knee injury. And that injury prevented him from fulfilling his dream of becoming a pro football player. Later, he enrolled in Centennial College to study journalism. Then he went on to McMaster University, and that's where he started acting while at college. Way back in 1971, John Candy was cast in a small little part as a Shriner in Creeps, a new Canadian play by David E. Freeman. And it was about cerebral palsy. That was in Toronto in 1973. That was in Toronto in 71. In 73, Candy guest starred on a Canadian children's television series called Cucumber, and he made a small uncredited appearance in The Class of 44. In 1974, Candy had a small part in the ABC afternoon play break. He was in something called The Last Bride of Salem. And also that year, in 74, he had a regular role on the TV series Dr. Zonk and the Zunkins, which I don't know if that was Canadian or American. It must have been Canadian. Dr. Zonk and the Zunkins from 74 to 75. But more importantly than any of that is that we're going to backtrack just a bit to 72. So while he was getting those little roles on TV and such, back in 72, Candy became a member of Toronto's branch of the Second City. And that's a show that eventually gained wide North American popularity, especially when NBC picked it up in 1981. And Americans started seeing it. And Candy quickly became a fan favorite. So that's really Second City is really his kind of big break, his big departure. It's where he became first known. Among Candy's SCTV characters was the unscrupulous street beat TV personality Johnny LaRue, 3D horror auteur Dr. Tongue, sycophantic and easily amused talk show sidekick William B. Williams. That's all from his Second City career. During Second City's series run, he did other things simultaneously, including appearing in the film The Clown Murders in 76. He had a lead in a low-budget comedy, Find the Lady, also in 76. And also, in 76, Candy played a supporting role with Rick Moranis on Peter Gzowski's short-lived late-night television talk show called 90 Minutes Live. And boy, it must have been short-lived because I sure as hell don't remember that. At any rate, moving on, in 78, Candy had a small role as a bank employee with Christopher Plummer and Elliot Gould in the Canadian thriller The Silent Partner. In 79, that's when Candy began a more active film career, appearing in a minor role in Lost and Found, and playing a U.S. Army soldier in Steven Spielberg's big-budget comedy 1941. He had a supporting role as easygoing parole officer Burton Mercer in The Blues Brothers 1980. Do you see somebody's career rising? Yeah, I do. In 1980, Candy hosted a short-lived NBC television program, Roadshow. The Washington Post said, the Roadshow is an improvisational journalism, is what they called it. And appearing as himself, Candy and a video crew traveled in a tour bus and interviewed college students amid party atmospheres. This seems like an early kind of reality television show, to be honest. Let's move on to Stripes in 81 with and that's where Candy played the lovable, mild-mannered Army recruit Dewey Oxberger. And Stripes ended up being one of the most successful films of that year. Candy went on to make a cameo appearance in Harold Ramis's National Lampoon's Vacation. And this was where he first had a collaboration with John Hughes, who, as you remember, was one of the writers of National Lampoon's Vacation. So that's when Candy and Hughes first connected in 83. Also, Candy appeared on Saturday Night Live twice, hosting in 1983. Now, In terms of movies, Candy's big breakout role was the hit romantic comedy Splash. Remember that? With
Oh,
Tom
God.
Hanks.
Yes.
Candy's first lead role in Hollywood film came with 1985's movie called Summer Rental. That was directed by Carl Reiner. Candy's next starring role in a Hollywood film was a big box office disappointment. It was called Armed and Dangerous with Meg Ryan in 86. But then the following year, in 1987, here we are, Candy had his hit film, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And went on to star in another film written by Hughes. It was called The Great Outdoors in 1988, which co-starred Dan Aykroyd. Candy had another hit film also with Hughes as the writer and director. It was called Uncle Buck in 1989. And after that, there were a string of forgettable flops. But then, this is a cute little movie. I went to see it. It was great. Candy returned to fame in 1993 with a comedic hit called Cool Runnings, a story of the first Jamaican national bobsled team attempting to make it to the 1988 Winter Olympics. It was a little sleeper hit movie that nobody saw coming. In 94, Candy made his directorial debut in a comedy television film called Hostage for a Day. Sadly, at the age of 43, Candy died in his sleep in 1994 in Durango City, Mexico, while filming a movie called Wagons East. And that, my friends, is John Candy, 1950 to 1994.
Now, Toppy, one of my all-time favorite John Candy films was the 90s movie Uncle Buck. And that introduced people to a very young Macaulay Culkin before Home Alone. Now,
that's right.
Oh, my goodness. Now, I'm at a time in my life where it seems like the people I work with are getting younger and younger, and I have a supervisor who is not even 3 decades old yet. But anyways, I was talking about pop culture and came upon something with Macaulay Culkin, and that sparked a memory, and I said to this young 20-something, I said, the first movie I remember Macaulay Culkin in was Uncle Buck with John Candy, and she was like, who? But thank goodness some of the streaming services out there have the wherewithal to include some pop culture, because I was able to tell this young lady that she could watch Uncle Buck on Netflix. So, hallelujah, praise hydrogen, there is a higher power, maybe. The leading lady in tonight's film, if you want to call her that, she's the wife of the traveling salesman played by Steve Martin, Layla Robbins. Her character was Susan Page, or Mrs. Page, of course, because it was.
Although I just for sake of confusion, Candy played the salesman, and Steve Martin played basically an ad salesman, a graphic designer kind of deal. Anyways,
they would both probably try to sell an Eskimo ketchup popsicle.
There you go.
So Layla Robbins played Susan Page, Mrs. Page. She was born in the heartland, don't you know, in St. Paul, Minnesota. She was the daughter of Latvian-American parents, one of those former Baltic states that got their freedom from the Soviet Union. She received her undergrad degree at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, sounds French, and attended the Yale School of Drama, earning a Master of Fine Arts. Robbins has been, now it's not with two B's, it's not like Tim Robbins, not related, it's Robin like the bird. Robbins has been in a relationship with the actor Robert Cuccioli since 2000. They co-starred in Macbeth at the Shakespeare Theater of New Jersey as Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, among other plays. So, she's a theater actress. She's very bohemian. She's not married, but they live together. The Robbins made her big screen debut starring opposite Steve Martin in tonight's film, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. She then starred opposite Tom Selleck, hubba hubba, in the 1989 crime thriller An Innocent Man. She was also in 1990's film that I do believe introduced us to Winona Ryder, Roxy Carmichael. And then in 95, she was in a comedy of Live Nude Girls.
Oh.
And this also had Dana Delaney and Kim Cattrall. And then in 99, she was in a film called True Crime. Now, on the small screen, Robbins co-starred with James Earl Jones, the voice of Darth Vader, and in the ABC crime drama series Gabriel's Fire from 90 to 91. She also guest starred on Law & Order Special Victims Unit, Law & Order Criminal Intent, and then Third Watch. She was in all the franchises there for a while. She also got on to be on Sex and the City. She was on 30 Rock and The Good Wife. She also played a younger version of Livia Soprano, the mother of mobster Tony Soprano, in the 2 episodes of the HBO crime drama series The Sopranos. In 2014, Robbins starred as Martha Boyd, the U.S. ambassador to Pakistan, in the 4th season of Showtime's series Homeland. And the following year, she was a regular cast member in the TNT drama series Murder in the First. In 2016, she had a recurring role in Quantico. Sounds like a military, sort of a police thing. In 2018, she starred in the short-lived ABC drama Deception. And she had a recurring role as Katerina Rostova, say that 3 times fast, in season 7 of the NBC series The Blacklist. She also had a recurring role in Treatment, Bored to Death, Mr. Mercedes, Dr. Death and the Boys, all those things. And in 2022, Robbins joined the cast of the AMC drama series. And here, folks, is tonight's Star Trek connection. The Walking Dead, which also starred Star Trek Discovery's future leading lady, Sonequa Martin Green. So Layla Robbins was in The Walking Dead as Governor of the Commonwealth. Pamela Milton.
Okay, that was a stretch, but yeah. Okay, you're right. That is a Star Trek connection.
And to date, Robbins has 91 acting credits.
I had long since forgotten about her small role in Planes, Trains, and Automobile, but I did run into her again in The Walking Dead as Pamela Milton, and that was quite something. Matt in the chat room brought up Edie McClurg. Let's talk about her. She had this cute little role. It was really just one scene, but she kind of stole the scene where she's trying to help them get tickets and everything. Right, DJ? What?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, the rental car.
Yeah, and that was pretty cute. One of the other, let's say, cameo appearances by Michael McKean, who gained fame on Laverne and Shirley, and most recently in Better Call Saul, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Michael McKean showed up towards the very end as, what was he? An officer? He was something.
Yeah, some sort of like a state trooper or something.
Yeah. And he turned up there. But let's talk about this weird cameo at the very beginning by Kevin Bacon. Steve Martin is trying to catch a cab, and suddenly he spies across the street. This is a very busy street where everyone's trying to catch a cab. He spies this other guy, played by Kevin Bacon. I don't even know if he was credited for this. And both of them see a cab stop at the same time, and they both race to get the cab. And it's just a funny moment with Kevin Bacon. DJ, I saw this movie when it came out, the year it came out, and I saw it on Thanksgiving Day.
Mm-hmm.
How about that? And I remember liking it, but my rewatch this past week made me like it a whole lot more.
Yeah.
I saw a whole lot more um, to love, and I think predominantly is this may have been one of Steve Martin's more mature roles, where unlike The Jerk or many other of his earlier movies, he was just in one goofy, stupid scene after another with a gag. This may have been his first mature role where he played a character, and the movie had was not just a strung together series of stupid funny things.
Mm-hmm.
It had a story, it had a heart, and so I recognized that when I first saw it, but I saw it even more when I rewatched it, and that's how much of a heart it had. It started uh, when Martin and Candy were in that hotel room and they were just having a terrible time, that first hotel room, and Steve Martin gives John Candy this big dressing down.
Mm-hmm.
He's just hammering like how stupid and what a dumb thing and how could you, and as Steve Martin is just berating him, the camera closes in on John Candy and we see his reaction, and slowly eventually Steve Martin understands, wow, I just really gave him a beating. And John Candy has a short speech where he basically says, well, look, I kind of like myself, and my wife does too. And he kind of defends himself a little as like, well, whatever you think, I think I'm a reasonably good human being. And that's the first moment where I felt like, wow, this is more than just a stupid string of funny scenes.
Absolutely. I think that one of the marks of a truly great film is its watchability, and not in the sense that, your attention is devoted to it the first time you see it, but as it is that when you watch it again, you pick up things that you didn't notice the first time. And certainly the fact that I saw this for the first time as a young person, not even much into my teens, I didn't have the attention span or the maturity to understand some of the emotional elements of this story. And I think that the chemistry between Steve Martin and John Candy was just brilliant, because Steve Martin's playing the serious guy, even though Steve Martin's known for comedy. So somebody who's watching this film for the first time who may not have seen Steve Martin in a serious role might be thinking, okay, when's he going to make me crack up? And so from that point, you're really sort of following Steve Martin's character and relating with him and thinking, when is he going to ditch this obnoxious guy who he seems to keep running into? And this is where, as you were saying, seeing it another time, maybe even seeing it for the first time as an adult, you pick up on some of those subtle messages. In fact, I challenge anyone to watch this film and figure out when they realize that John Candy's character has a deeper element to his reason for being out on the road. And we'll get to that in a second here. But, watching it as an adult, it certainly weighs differently. And I would say, and this is going to sound cheesy, but remember, folks, I grew up in a conservative household. It was like the Donna Reed show. So I'm going to say it like this. Movies like this are a reminder of why a generation of people were raised to believe that when you're out in public, you put on a happy face. Now, in this day and age where we understand that people have their own emotional baggage and everyone's got their own problems, we kind of brush that idea off to the side. But I think that that's, in some degree, one of the problems this world has today. You don't smile at strangers. You don't even try to make eye contact. People in stores don't talk to each other, even if they're behind the counter and they're supposed to be the one who's there to help you. They just grumble, look at their phone, maybe walk away from you. And that's one of the problems of the world today. So, John Candy's character in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, I think, is a good example of that old message that you put on a happy face if you can, because there's somebody out there in this world who's having a harder time at life than you, and it's the reason we have occasions like Thanksgiving, to be thankful for what you do have, because sure, there's a lot that many of us probably don't have, and it really sucks you can't have it, but what good is it going to do you to waste your time wanting that thing you can't have? Why not try to make a difference? And, I think in the end of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Steve Martin's character did his best to make a difference.
Yeah. I agree. He literally got off his train and went back to where John Candy was. After wanting nothing but to go home, he gets off the train to go back. And I think that even though it is a small role, that Layla Robbins, in the last scene where she plays the wife who welcomes back Steve Martin, and it's very teary. There's a crescendo of music, and Steve Martin says, "I'd like you to meet my friend," and she says, "Welcome," and that's the end of the movie. And it fulfills everything you'd want in a movie to end with a true feel-good feeling, and it succeeds tremendously, besides being a very, very funny movie all the way through. So I just want to mention, because we did talk about it, Edie McClurg's role. If you didn't know, her one little short scene, she improvised a lot of the beginning, where she's Steve Martin is impatiently waiting for her to service him, and she's on the phone speaking apparently with someone that she seems to personally know. And she's saying things like, I can't cook. And she's talking about, all you hear is her part of the conversation. And that was all improvised by McClurg and encouraged by the director. And McClurg says, to this day, random people come up to her and ask her to tell them that they're fucked.
Yes.
So there you go. Let's wrap it up, DJ.
Okay. So we are out here close to the lobby, and we're going to talk about things you might enjoy if Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is on your playlist. So we call this our snack tray. I'm going to recommend a film from more recent years. It's a comedy drama also. This is from 2010, and it stars future superhero star Robert Downey Jr., along with Jamie Foxx, who got his career started on In Living Color, and Juliette Lewis, who was in Christmas Vacation as I think the third Audrey. This is a film called Due Date, and it's a high-strung father-to-be, Peter Hyman, not Hyman, Hyman, is forced to hitch a ride with aspiring actor Ethan Tremblay on a road trip in order to make it to his child's birth on time. 2010's Due Date.
All right. Very good. Nice choice. I thought of another John Hughes comedy, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That's what I'm recommending. If you like tonight's movie, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, you're probably going to like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Matthew Broderick takes his best friend, Cameron Alan Ruck, and his girlfriend, Sloane, Mia Sarah, with him on the most epic ditching school experience in the history of time. And that experience is not unlike the road comedy that is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. So that's what I'm recommending. If you like tonight's movie, you're going to probably like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So check it out.
And that, of course, was filmed in Chicago, just like tonight's movie, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah, Hughes very connected to Chicago.
Mm-hmm. All right, Toppy. So this place has had a lot of history, and we tell folks what's coming up next by putting one of those magical coins in our gumball machine. Could you grab that bag and dish one out?
All right, here we go. Hey, give me the magic coins. Put it in the slot. Yeah.
All right, Choppy, go ahead and open that up for us.
A capsule. Oh, here we go. Next time, folks, on Matinee Minutia. It's a mid to late 80s situation comedy by the creator of Silver Spoons, with little Ricky Schroeder, starring former cast member of Taxi, rising star from One Life to Live, and her new TV mother, the former matriarch of Billy's Crystal's premiere. When a retired baseball player becomes the housekeeper of a New York ad executive, they end up raising all their crazy kids together. Next time, it's Who's the Boss? And we are going to be joined by a returning guest, author, playwright, podcaster. Our own Matt Burlingame is going to join us next time.
Woo! All right! And I hear that he has a thing for that, what's her name? The teen daughter that was in this, because she was also in another show that he liked.
I don't know. I can't remember.
Oh, Alyssa Milano. I remembered because it kind of made me hungry, and it's like Pepperidge Farm, the Milano cookies.
all I know, DJ, is Matt's claiming he's never seen that show.
Well, as luck would have it, because we love The Underdog, apparently only the first season was ever released on DVD. But I have it on good authority that if you dig, if you scratch the surface of the interwebs, you could probably find a way to watch it.
Okay.
All right. So, Toppy, if you would peek over the balcony and let us know who was in the chat room tonight.
Well, we'd like to welcome the kind folks who joined us live, because we do this live every first and third Friday of the month. And we have joining us in our chat room via, what do you call this thing? Discord.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Discord. We've got Lamont Cranston, and we've got our pal from who always joins us, Tommy Hash Browns, and we have Matt Burlingame from Chubb's Gone Wild and the Big Gay Six Show. Thank you all for joining us and just making like we've got an audience to talk to. So we love you for it. Thanks for being here live.
Okay. Well, Toppy, it's time for Gertie to catch her Uber, so if you would, go ahead and say goodnight in the ways of the old days of radio.
Good night, Gracie.
Thank you for listening to Matinee Minutia.
Our show streams live on the first and third Friday of the month.
Go to matineeminutia.com, click the YouTube icon for live video, enter Discord for chat.
You can find our show anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Visit our webpage at matineeminutia.com.
Tweet us on Twitter at Matinee Minutia.
Find our group on Facebook.
Have an idea for a show? Or why not let us know how we're doing?
Email us at matineeminutia@gmail.com. You're messing with the wrong guy! Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the show, stop streaming.